Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's Business Education webinar series. Today's presentation is 15 tips for writing effective email marketing copy. My name is Jessica Brower, and I'm the Marketing Director at the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I'll be your speaker today. Before we get started, I want to point out the Zoom control panel that's likely on the top or the bottom of your screen. I wanted to call attention to both the questions and the chat function. If you have any comments or questions during the webinar today, I'd like you to use those to communicate with me. I know some of you have already found them, so that's great. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent out to all registrants shortly after this live event today. You can also visit our website at wyomingwomen.org and navigate to the training tab to view all of our upcoming webinars and past webinar recordings. And if you're joining us live today, a survey will launch shortly after we close the presentation. If you could, please complete the survey as it provides us and our funding partners with some really valuable information. And as a reminder, all participants are muted to minimize any background noise. So once again, if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, just go ahead and type those into the chat box or the questions panel, and we will get to them there. So let's go over some really quick information about the WWBC, just in case you aren't familiar with us just yet. So I'd like to start by introducing you to the WWBC. We're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to enable and empower Wyoming entrepreneurs with a special emphasis on women. We do that through 3 distinct programs. The first is our business counseling and training program, which is always free. The second is our microloan program, which offers loans from $500 to $50,000 for businesses that have been denied from a traditional lending source. And the third is the Artist Development Center that we run in conjunction with the Works of Wyoming store in downtown Laramie. What I really want to get across to you is that we specialize in micro enterprises. So what is a micro enterprise? It's a business that has less than 6 employees. The majority are just 1 or 2 person businesses, and these businesses were able to launch for under $35,000. So businesses like yoga studios, hairstylists, in-home daycare providers, marketing consultants, photographers, cleaning services, artists or artisan makers. These are all really great examples of the clients we serve. So if you're not already a client of the WWBC and you'd like to be, it's really quick and easy. You can sign up by going to wyomingwomen.org and click on that sign up now button at the top of the page. Or if you'd rather contact us individually, you'll find some contact information, an email and phone number at the end of this presentation. So with that, let's get started. Number 1, know your audience. So who are you talking to? Your voice is going to change depending on who you are, who you're speaking to, and what you're speaking about. So before you engage in any marketing, and in this case, we're talking about emails, ideally you have a clear understanding of your business's voice and your audience's needs, and those are unique to you. So quality email copy for a hair salon is going to look different than quality email copy for an artisan soap maker. So this foundational work is incredibly important, and the thing I speak about most in these webinars, no doubt. If you've joined me before, you've heard me say this a million times, and I will continue to say it, and there's a reason why it's at the top of my list. So ask yourself, who are you speaking to? What does their life look like? How are you solving a problem for them? What does your relationship look like with them? Is it light and uplifting, or maybe it's more serious and assertive? Do you use humor or a certain kind of language or jargon? All of these are really important details to know to help you hone in your voice, to know your audience before you start creating your email. So next up, know your goal. Similarly, all of your marketing efforts need to have a goal in mind. And having this goal does a couple of things for you. First, it helps you focus in. It eliminates the need to try to do all for everyone. With this specific goal, you can create more powerful and effective messaging. And not only does this save you time and headache and allows you to focus, it is what makes good marketing really good. Second off, you now have a way to measure your performance. This goal allows you to check in and evaluate how your efforts are going. Ultimately, marketing is experimental, and even the best of marketers create campaigns with a hypothesis. So without a way to measure this hypothesis, there's no way to really know how effective your work was. So these goals could vary greatly, email to email, business to business. Perhaps you're looking to sell a product or get clicks to a page, to add followers to your email list, to sell tickets to an event. There's many different goals, and there's no right or wrong. So for example, the goal of the WWBC's emails, which likely brought you to this webinar this afternoon, was to get attendees here. I was able to measure the success of those emails by the number of registrants for this webinar, which helps me to further market our next webinars down the line. Next up, write a subject line with purpose. Did you know that 47% of email recipients open an email based on the subject line alone? And at the same time, 69% of email recipients report email as spam based solely on the subject line. So this subject line is the first introduction of your content to your audience, and therefore it carries a lot of weight. And don't get me wrong, it's stressful and kind of scary because of that. But how you present it ultimately will depend on you, your business, your audience, that voice that you now know that you have. So regardless, you want to appeal to your ideal audience psychologically. Are you solving a problem for them? Is there a quick approaching deadline? Are you sharing a product you know they won't want to miss? Make sure you're using this small but mighty subject line to get your audience interested in taking that first step and opening that email. And like I said, I know this can be scary, and I've often found myself beating my head against the wall trying to figure out what the heck to write for a subject line. Fortunately, there's lots of resources out there. So Googling how to write subject lines, examples of subject lines, and taking a look at your own inbox is a really great idea, or a really great way to gather ideas. Next, keep it short and sweet, between 50 and 125 words. So you might think 125 words isn't enough to fully convey a marketing message. But the truth of the matter is, we're all really lazy readers, especially in our inbox. And that's assuming that we're even going to read the whole thing. So as you create your emails, think about, how can I keep this brief and easy to consume? So think about things like bulleted lists, short paragraphs, descriptive titles to break up blocks of text. These all help us to digest the content you're presenting without getting overwhelmed and clicking away. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's much easier to write 125 words than it is to get consumed and stressed and ultimately walk away from having to write a really lengthy diatribe about whatever it is I'm trying to tell my customers. 5, include a call to action. So a call to action is another element of marketing that is non-negotiable in my book, and you've probably heard me talk about it before. So what is a call to action? It is simply the request of you as the content creator to your audience to do something. Buy this, click this, sign up for this, go here. So I divide these into 2 different categories: soft calls to action and hard calls to action. So a soft call to action is something like comment below, share with a friend, react with an emoji, something that's asking people to continue to engage with your content, but isn't a really heavy lift. Similarly, a hard call to action is asking your audience to do something, but it's a little more of a heavy lift. So maybe it's making a purchase, signing up for a list, downloading something. So regardless of if you're offering soft calls to action or hard calls to action, every single email you send should have a clear call to action for your audience. So you'll see here in this example here, you can see short blocks of text, and then let's cook right there. That's their call to action. Next, pay attention to the details. Design is an element of marketing that can be deep dived endlessly. And ultimately, I understand that you are all here because you have businesses to run, and you need marketing that helps you attract and retain the customers you need to keep that business going. And most of us aren't here to be renowned designers. But that said, it's really important for everyone to have a basic understanding of design and to know what can be a hindrance to readers engaging with your content. So some things to consider. Color. Can you read them? For example, this red text on this green block is incredibly difficult to read. You could assume, oh, it's Christmassy, that's fun. However, I can't read what it says, or it's really difficult for me to read it, so I'm probably going to click away from it. So pick a couple of colors, make sure that you can read them, and keep it simple. Similarly with fonts, just pick a couple of fonts and check, can you read them? Maybe you find a really beautiful scrolling font and you really like how it looks. But once you have blocks of text in the scrolling font, it's just messy and hard to read. Next is white space. So use white space to create breathing room for your text as well as your graphic elements. So we're all similar with advertisements or posters where we see lots of logos or lots of images. A thing I like to think about is the grocery store ads in the newspaper. You open it up and it's so full of information, photos and text and numbers, that it's a lot. It's a lot to digest. So that's a good example of not using white space. Whereas this example that I showed you on the slide before is a great example of using white space. Everything can breathe, the photo can breathe, the button can breathe, the text can breathe. Keep it simple and it's easier for us to consume. Next, incentivize and reward your audience. Incentivizing or rewarding your followers is a really great way to build your email list, especially if you're a new business or new to email marketing and you don't have a large collection of emails yet. So knowing your audience and their needs, you can create an incentive for them to sign up for your list. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm telling you that you have to give away your product for free. That's not what I'm saying. So maybe you do offer a coupon. So if you're a retailer, you could offer a 20% off coupon for your store. But if you're a service provider, maybe you provide something else that's valuable that doesn't cost you money, just takes some time to make. So maybe you provide access to a tutorial video or a PDF article or a document that's useful based on your business and the needs of your audience. So an example of this would be a hair salon could send a video tutorial of a DIY updo for holiday parties, while an accountant could provide a template spreadsheet for managing your budget. Regardless, you're providing something of value, you're collecting their email addresses in return, and most importantly, you're delivering something to them. Next, use your personality. So once again, this comes back to knowing your brand and your audience. Your customers have built a connection with you, and they'll be more responsive to content that sounds like it's coming from you versus boring or dry content that could be for anyone or any business that's just copy and pasted off the internet. And only you will know how to add this. So maybe you use certain language or phrases when you work with your clients or your customers. It's just a part of your personality. Include those in your emails. If you're known for your humor, then make sure that's reflected in your emails too. Say something funny. It doesn't have to be serious if you're not a serious person. If you know that your customers like to hear your book recommendations, then include a recommendation in your emails to them. There's so many options, and all of which are unique to you and your business. So just start to play around and see how your audience responds. Next, include quality visuals. So we've already talked about design, and this is very similar, but here I want to focus more on photos and graphics. And let me tell you, when I picked this photo, I spent an probably unnecessary amount of time combing the internet for bad stock photography, and I had a lot of great laughs. Ultimately, I ended up on this one, but there's some real gems out there. So if you're struggling to get quality photos for your social media, I highly suggest checking out the WWBC YouTube channel. We have loads of content on taking photos or video, creating graphics, and all of these are free to you. So when it comes to photos and graphics, some things to keep in mind are make sure that your photos are clear. Fortunately now with smartphones, we can take really high quality pictures with just our phone. So that isn't as much of an issue as maybe it was a decade ago. Next, don't stretch them out of proportion like I did here with this very odd pizza Santa man. Make sure everything stays proportionate and it still looks normal. If you use stock photography, which you certainly can, just make sure it makes sense. I had a great time browsing bad stock photography, like I said, And I ultimately landed on this guy, but there are thousands of images out there that don't do anyone any favors. A boring photo can detract your reader the same way that a bad subject line can prompt them to delete it without opening. So make sure you're picking quality images, and ideally you're featuring you, your product, your space, your community. Your customers are connected to this. They're not connected to a model on the internet, regardless of how wonderful that photo may be. Next, be informative. You know the drill. This is just like junior high English class. We want to include the 5 W's and 1 H in every email. Who, what, why, where, when, how. This assures that you get all of the information that your audience needs and it doesn't leave them with any questions. Fortunately, unlike junior high, I'm not going to ask you to write any 5-paragraph essays. Likely, you can get all of this information into 1 or 2 sentences. So I'm going to give you an example to show you. Are you hosting a Halloween party this month? There's your who. Buy a dozen spooky sugar cookies to treat your guests at Sweets Bakery. That tells you what, why, and where, all in 1 sentence. Place your order before October 29th at 5 p.m. by visiting our website and clicking Place My Halloween Order at the top of the page. There's your when and your how. Everything's represented. It's short and sweet. It's not that difficult. Next up, don't be afraid of follow-up. You've likely seen this acronym before, and it stands for in case you missed it. This became big on Twitter years ago, and it's continued to be a way to signify a nudge to circle back to content. And you certainly don't have to use this language. However, what I am asking you to do is to remind your audience of the messages that you sent. So oftentimes it can feel repetitive to market your business. You say a lot of the same things over and over again, which can feel like you're being obnoxious or redundant, and that can be an unsettling feeling. The truth of the matter is, you are one voice among many. First, it's likely that many people will not see your email because they blow past it in their inbox. They're busy, whatever, we don't know what they have going on. Second, even if they do see it, they likely need a reminder of what it is you'd like them to do. Just because they haven't made a purchase or bought the ticket or signed up or forwarded the email or done whatever you asked them to do does not mean that they don't want to do it. How many times have you seen a marketing message while you were standing in line at the grocery store or in line at the bank, and you told yourself, I'm definitely going to come back to that because I want to do this. And then you forget because you got busy. You drove home, you made dinner, you planned the next day, and that intention you had to buy that thing that you really wanted that's on sale is forgotten. So reminders help recapture. In a bit, we'll talk about open rates on emails, which further drives home the necessity to continue to send messages, even when you hear crickets in return. Next up, personalize. So if you're using an email software like MailChimp or Constant Contact, you have the opportunity to personalize. This adds the recipient's name or other data that you could collect when they sign up for your list into the body of the email, making it feel more personal. So for example, the top of the email, instead of it saying, hey there, it would say, hey, Jessica. If this is something you have the ability to do, I really suggest playing with it. It's reported that personalized emails can increase open rates by around 14%, which is significant when you know standard open rates, which we will get to in the next few slides. So that said, make sure you're collecting the right data. If there's an error on the back end, you could end up with a message that's more of a turnoff than a nice touch if the name is wrong or blank. So you can see an example of this here on the slide. At the top is where it works well. Hey, Jane, check out our new season. That feels awesome. They're talking to me. But below is, hey, first name, fallback, fashionista. That's kind of confusing. It's very clear that something went wrong and it doesn't feel as warm and fuzzy anymore. We don't want that. Next, double check and test. This is just a quick reminder of what you already know, and I know you know it. Take a moment to step away from your email and then return with fresh eyes to check for typos, to make sure your content is clear, double check that all your links are going to where you want to send your audience to. Many email services have the option to send a test email, which means you can send yourself or even a colleague or a friend a test email to their inbox and see how it looks as a recipient. This is a really great tool and something that even the most expert of marketers need to rely on because we're human beings. We're always making errors. And the more eyes, the better. 13, don't stop collecting. Your email list is a living and breathing entity. People are going to unsubscribe when your content is no longer relevant to them, and that's not personal. And I know it can feel personal, especially when you get a large number of unsubscribes at once. It can feel like you're doing wrong. And that's not necessarily the case. That's usually not the case. So perhaps you're a wedding photographer and your clients have been married for many years now. They just don't need you anymore. So they're going to unsubscribe. Maybe they moved out of town or their financial situation changed. None of these things are a reflection of your worthiness as a business owner or as a marketer. They have nothing to do with you ultimately. So as you see your numbers go down on your email list, which they will, know that you can also be adding new audience members who do need your content now. So this is why the work never stops on collecting emails. Make sure you're gathering information from customers, experimenting with incentives to sign up, and keeping movement into this email list. 14, understand your open rate. As promised, here's some stats on open rates. So an open rate is the percentage of people who actually open your email. You'll see here a good open rate is 12 to 25%. So meaning 12 to 25% of the emails you sent will actually get opened. The click-through rate, on the other hand, is the percentage of subscribers who click a link within your email. So a good click-through rate is 2 to 5%. So 2 to 5% of the people who receive your email will actually click on the button with your call to action. And then click to open rate, which is a thing you'll sometimes see, but not always, is how many click-throughs or clicks on a link in your email occur only from those who opened your email. So 10 to 22% is standard, or is a quality, well, standard and quality click to open rate. And that is 10 to 22% of the people who opened your email click on something in it. So my main goal with sharing this information with you is to make sure that you understand how to set a realistic goal. If your goal is 100% open rate, that's unlikely. Even a 25% open rate is on the high end. So you're not doing yourself any favor by setting these goals. In email marketing, you can expect that your message is not going to be received by a lot of people. And this is not a reason to stop. It's not you, it's just us as consumers. We have a lot of emails, we're busy, we're overwhelmed, and we don't open everything. So last but not least, watch your inbox for inspiration. So be on the lookout for emails that you like. What emails are you opening and what emails are you immediately deleting? Spend some time combing through your inbox and seeing what it is about these emails you like and don't like. Use these topics we chatted about today as a checklist. How's the subject line? How long is the email? How are they using design elements and visuals? How are they adding personality? What's the call to action? You can learn a lot by looking at others, both others that are inspiring and others that are doing things that you don't like. And I really suggest in all marketing, but in this case in emails, you spend some time doing so. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. And while you guys type those into the Q&A section, I'm going to go over a little bit more information and then we'll circle back to it, I promise. So here's some contact information for our business counselors at the WWBC. If you're interested in getting individualized business counseling, you can reach out to Jonathan Howdy Shell. His contact information is on the top of the slide, whereas my contact information, if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, is on the bottom. And be sure to visit our website at wyomingwomen.org to learn about all of our services or to fill out our online intake form to become a client. The WWBC is made possible through several partnership agencies. The center's primary funding comes from the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council. We are so thankful for their support and the guidance of these partners and look forward to the work ahead. If you enjoyed this webinar, we have lots of topics coming up. So remember to visit our website to register for webinars under the training tab. You'll see we have one on trademark basics, as well as 7 options to access money for your small business and ready to start a business, which talks about our new Dream Builder program. And then our new series, Artist Insights, we'll be talking about building a Shop Small campaign. So in this series, I'm talking with artists. However, what we're chatting about is relevant to any business owner. So with that, I'm gonna check on our Q&A and our chat. I see we've got lots of stuff going on here. Okay. How can one follow up on click and open rates? So by this, I guess I don't totally know what you're asking here. If you're asking if you can know who clicked on things and check back with them, Cynthia, could you let me know what you mean there? And while you do that, I'm going to pop over to Lori. What email marketing do you recommend? So I use Constant Contact for the Women's Business Center. However, personally, I have really liked MailChimp. I think they're both really great. They offer really similar services. They have templates to use. You can segment your email list. They both have different kind of payment plans based on how many contacts you have. I don't know about Constant Contact, but I do know that MailChimp has a free option. So that could be a great place to start if you are just getting started and don't have a big list just yet. But honestly, a lot of it really depends on what works for you. This is so true for any kind of marketing software. I think you just kind of have to get in and fiddle with it a bit and see if it's working for you or not. So Constant Contact and MailChimp are the ones that I definitely recommend and I have used personally and have really enjoyed using. Okay. To know who to follow up with. Okay, so this is referencing on click and open rates. You know, generally, I am not sure. It would depend on your software. I don't think that you can really see who clicked through or who opened. You may be able to, but typically, you know, the people who clicked through because they do the thing that you asked. So maybe that's signing up for something or downloading something or sharing something. I do know that the email softwares now are experimenting with sending follow-up emails. So if your email software knows that, you know, those 70% of people didn't open the email, it'll resend the email to them. And it just automates that on the back end, just as kind of a nudge. There are a lot of rules that come with email marketing. And so these email softwares really try to make it so you can't harass people. And so that's why some of the information can be difficult to get to. So I think knowing who clicked through and who opened is maybe sometimes a mystery, though you can often tell who did it just by what happens on the other end. You know, maybe you're asking them to book a session with you, and so they call you and then say, oh, I saw this on your email, or they download a thing and then you can see that they downloaded it or they signed up for a list. So I hope that helps. Given these suggestions, can someone review a business website? You know, I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure what you're asking here. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how to answer that. So if you want to send me a email, maybe we could chat a little bit more about that one-on-one so I can know what it is you're asking. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Okay, Lori had one more question. How often should email marketing go out? You know, that really depends on you and your business. I think I always tell businesses in any kind of marketing that you need to be consistent. So I don't want you to set a goal for yourself that doesn't allow you to be consistent. So you could find a tutorial somewhere that could say you need to send one email a week, but you know in your schedule, I don't have time for that, so I'm not going to do it. So you're going to try, and then you're going to burn out, and then you're going to stop, and then you're going to kick yourself for not meeting that goal. So I really encourage people to self-evaluate and say, you know, I think I can realistically write an email a month, and so I'm going to do that. So then your audience gets used to knowing I'm going to receive an email from Lori once a month, and that's what I expect from her. If you send a weekly email and then stop and only send a quarterly email, your customers might start to think, oh, maybe she went out of business, or maybe she doesn't need to reach out to us anymore. Maybe she left town, or they'll start to fill in the gaps, whether they're true or not. So I think just deciding how you can be consistent is the best way to go about it. But if I had to give just kind of a immediate recommendation for kind of a broad sweeping any kind of business, I think once a month is a really great place to start. All right, again, thank you all so much. Like I said, when I close this webinar today, a survey is going to pop up on your screen. It's just a quick 6-question survey, and I do ask that you stay online and complete it. I read each of these, and it really helps me to plan our upcoming calendar and improve these offerings. So thank you again for attending today's webinar and what could have been your lunch hour. I look forward to seeing you all again soon.